this is Scott Carpenter, and today I wanted to continue my Sasquatch Awareness Project series on signs of the presence of Sasquatch on your property. And today we're going to go over footprints, which are the most common things found. And I mean, there are experts out there, some I won't name, but I think everybody knows them, that have studied the footprints, and to these people this is the basically the best evidence the Sasquatch exists. It's actually physical evidence, and if you know what you're looking at and what I'm going to discuss, you can tell whether they're hoaxed or real, or a real creature made them. So when people start suspecting they have activity on their property, one of the first things they find is a footprint or a series of footprints. And to kind of count out or exclude hoaxes, some of the things you look for, like if you've got a trackway, you're looking for, number one, just the size of the prints. Now, the Sasquatch come in all shapes and sizes, and they're a breeding population, so you're going to have infants all the way up to adults. One thing that we have noticed, that the smaller Sasquatch, their footprints will be similar to humans' footprints when they're smaller, 7 inch to 9, 10 inch. But as they gain weight and get larger, they get a flat foot and a boxy flat foot. In other words, so instead of many times I've heard, quote, these experts look at a footprint that was taken in the middle of the Sierra Nevadas, and 10 below zero in the mud, and saying, well, that's a human print. Well, that's, anybody with any common sense knows that that wasn't a human print, and it was associated with other prints that were Sasquatch prints as far as larger. So obviously it was a subadult, but that's what I'm saying. From a lot of this is just common sense and applying it. Hang on, I gotta take a drink. So if you find prints, some of the things you're going to look for, is that boxiness and that flat foot if they're larger prints. And if they're adults, their prints can be anywhere from 13 to 18 to 25 inches, huge. And another thing you're going to look for is it's being depressed. In other words, a normal human being, 200 to 300 pounds, a Sasquatch, 5, 7, 1,000 pounds. So the footprint may be in soil where you can't even make a depression, and the print is down a half an inch, quarter inch, full inch. That's an obvious, that's an obvious sign this is a real print. The Sasquatch tend to walk directly in a straight line. Let me show you that. I have where a Sasquatch actually walked up out of a creek and crossed a road in the Smoky Mountains in Cades Cove, and I got there right after it happened. I was like the first or second car in that morning, and here you can kind of see where this is about 5-6 feet, and you can see where something stepped here, and then here, and you can see the straight line right there. See, here's one footprint, there's another, and a direct straight line after he got up and got going. And right there is the wet part of the foot. This guy was huge. If you look here, you can see this. I have a 13 inch. This boot, my boot's 13 inches, and this wet footprint from the back of the heel to the ball of the foot was 13 inches. And then you can just barely see one of the toes up here, have water on it still. So that print right there is a good 20, 21, 22 inch print. And look how wide it is compared to my foot. So you're looking for inline and a large, usually a larger print. You're also looking for a manipulation of the foot. In other words, if someone's going to hoax, most of them are going to, even if they use rubber, they can't make the toes move. They can't make the foot itself adapt to the terrain. So if you see footprints that have toe curl, in other words, it's walking along and the prints won't be exactly the same. There'll be toe curl. There'll be where it's the one foot slides or the heel kicks to one side. So if it's a living foot, then you're going to see that sort of thing. And I found a footprint where the Sasquatch had made a boo-boo, and he was kind of out in a trail, and he made a leap about 7-8 feet, and then he hit he hit the ground and his toes sprayed out, just like, and he slid. And this is in hard packed gravel. This was at one time a packed gravel road, and he made a deep impression with his bare feet in this road. And this is his footprint. You can see here my foot beside it and how it slides, and then the toes spray and kind of dig in. Lots of times there's curling of the toes. You'll see that where he's trying to grab, and like I say, you'll see a heel kick to the left or to the right, and so that's another sign you're dealing with a real footprint. Now sometimes the Sasquatch will just leave a single footprint, especially when they're dealing with coming to a person's residence, and it's almost like a signature, like we were here. And like this picture here, you can only see this is actually beside the fence, and whatever it was, the Sasquatch stepped over, and you could see the big toe and the middle toe and a little bit of the third toe, and I put my foot there, but just the big toe, just the 3 toes itself were 5 inches wide, just 3 of the toes. And sometimes it's just that, it's just I know good and well that there's no animals and no people stepping over a 5-foot fence, especially right beside it, and be working on the inner parts of your legs there if you were a person. And so lots of times it's just a partial print. Let me find that. This print here was in the dirt in my backyard, and it's just the front of the foot. And you can see the toes, and you can see where the right toe was he made a twisting motion and then pushed, and so you had the toes here. You can see the dirt right there, and this set of it was 4 toes. 2 toes I think are together right there, but that alone was 9, 10, 11, 12, almost 12, 13 inches wide at the front of the foot. It's a big old boy. But sometimes that's what you'll find. You'll just find the partial print, especially, in my experience around your home, or a single print. And right here is like a small infant print that was on my back deck, in the snow, in the barefoot. And it wasn't for me. The dogs started barking at something outside, and the time I got there and turned the light on, it was gone, but it appeared that a juvenile was set on the deck. He walked around. There was multiple footprints. This was the best one. He walked around. Tried to stay out of the snow, but the snow had blown in. Instead of going straight there was a dog food bin and a table. Instead of going straight through it, which would have put him going right beside the door, he went around. Around the table and got out where there had been snow. Snow had blown, in under the deck onto the wood. There was wood, it's one by us, and on the deck. And so he had 4 or 5 footprints there. So he'd gone around, and then the adult went around and picked him up, took him off the other side after he got something to eat. And but he was smart enough and wary enough not to go straight to it, because that would take him literally right beside the door. And if I was there and opened the door or looked out, I'd have definitely seen him going around. Gave him a little bit of a leeway there not to be caught right against the house. So we're talking about these are most of your things to look for when do I really have Sasquatch prints? And you also want to look, is it a single or something that's moving through, or is it a family? You want to look, of course, for multiple footprints. If it's, if obviously if it's just one, and he leaves one trackway and that's it, or one or two prints and that's it, you just gotta, he's on they're moving through the property. If they're consistently on your property, then you're probably going to find pathways. Now, let me say this. They're extremely smart, SEAL Team 6 on steroids. So they will alternate paths, and they will do their best not to cause or not to create a pathway like a trail. So they'll use established trails, established walkways, roads. They'll use those things when they can. Or if they have to walk the trail, they'll walk on the sides of the trail. They won't walk in the trail, they'll walk on the sides. I've seen them, many prints I've found or impressions have been in areas where there's like a hiking trail, and then the print is on to the left or the right. It's like it's been walking on the side. And if you find a pristine, usually if you find like a single pristine print, whether it's in the trail, whether it's at your home, whether it's in the barnyard, it's just one print, and you're like, how did this one print get here? Did he just materialize, leave the print, or did he jump? It doesn't make any sense. There's nothing else around it. There's no prints coming in, no prints coming out. That's a signature. That's they're telling you we're here. It's them letting you know that, hey, we're here. That we were here, we visited. And other than that, I can't attribute much more to that. Now, I know in the wilderness they use the footprint as a sign, sometimes to us and sometimes to others. They do the thing where, they agree upon, a preset agreement that says, okay, if you're coming behind me, I'll leave one really nice footprint, and then, 10 feet down the trail on the look to your right, and there should be a stick, or there should be a rock X, or just a rock, and that's the direction I've gone, and I'll be 50 feet in the woods, or that's the direction I went. And so sometimes that's what they're doing. So either way, it's all this or those telltale signs, through the footprint side of it, that you've got them on your property, or coming around your house, or coming around your hunting blind, etc. And it's just if you found a bear track, you'd be aware there's bears in the area. Just if you found a cougar track, or you found large hog prints, these things alert you, and you put it in the back of your mind that you need to be, just a little bit more aware, and have it in your mind. Be prepared mentally. You may encounter something. You may encounter a bear. You may encounter a hog. You might travel differently on stay on the trails. The same thing with the Sasquatch. They're there. You now are aware of them, and you're going to be more cognizant of that. Of that possibility that encounter them. They're out here, or they're here. Another thing, real quick, it kind of overlaps, but a couple more things that people don't think of, but and I found it, and it was one of those things. It's just what an animal. It's a sign, and lots of times it's not talked about, and that's dander or grease, or off the Sasquatch. And they do shed hair, they do have dander, they shed skin, and they are greasy, and they do leave stuff behind like that. They're dirty. Some of them, not all, but I had one that was literally sleeping under the deck. And this picture here, and you could see, and it was over a few weeks. It just wasn't like, happening, and there it was. But over time, the leaves got pushed out of the way, because I didn't have any way to keep the leaves out from under the deck, and it was in the wintertime. The leaves got pushed out, and all of a sudden, and the dogs weren't over here, there's one dogs, this bean-shaped place, about 8 foot long, started materializing. You could see where they've been laying in the dirt, and there was a greasy, musky, nasty smelling black dander, goo, grease, body oil, whatever you want to call it, and you could see it. And it was there, and it was, I've got samples of it. I don't know if it'll yield any DNA, just because, you know, I don't know if there's DNA in that stuff, but it really doesn't matter. It's a mute point. We know it exists, yada yada. But long story short is, that's another thing you can look for, or you might notice. And it might be on a barn floor, or in a barn loft, or in a stall, or like under a deck, or on a deck, or in an outbuilding. Another thing they did is in the cushions here. And they came by and visited, and I'm sure it wasn't very large ones, because the cushions were in wicker chairs. But the cushions were clean and pristine. And the next morning, it's like one of those things where you go out the next morning, you set in them the night before, and they were clean. And then there's this black dirt from where something, with. But there was something with a nasty fanny with dander on it that sat in that, sit in that chair and left that nasty dander behind. That's another thing. Where they might, be sleeping on an old mattress, in an abandoned building, blankets. So, keep that in mind, when you're, if you are suspicious that they're around or on your property. So, anything else I want to mention here? So you can go through the photos. Oh, yeah, there's one more thing. Oh, 6 toes. That's a couple more things. 6 toes. Not all, but some Sasquatch have 6 toes and 6 fingers. And that's another clue. If you find a large six-toed print, that's another indicator you're dealing with a Sasquatch. And this cast here is 6-toed. Now, another thing they do, and I'm going to tell you, unless you're a guy, you've urinated outside, especially in loose dirt around a campground, around your camp, you may or may not be aware of this, but when you urinate, if you're just standing in one spot, you just don't move. Usually what happens is, and if the dirt's loose, you drill a hole. And for human beings, it's usually about the size of your thumb, And so what happened was, a Sasquatch stood beside my deck and urinated. And it left it, literally it was the hole. And then, of course, the urine spread out in the dirt. And it was stunk. It was nasty. It wasn't a dog. This is an enclosed backyard with privacy fence. Or at that time, it was chain link fence that's waist high, 4.5, 5 foot high. And, it's right on the edge of the deck, right near where they come around to get the dog food. So that's another thing you might be on the lookout for. Feces, not so much, though they do, they will go. I know I've had reports where they will go in barns, and when they're living in the barn, they'll, if they're like staying in the loft, they'll relieve themselves like in a stall or something of that nature, and you're going to find oversized, human-looking feces. And then you may find, like I said, this was oversized. This is way too big for a person. That hole was that big around. And like I said, I got a sample of it. I got a dirt sample that's in the freezer. I don't know if there'll be any DNA in that either. But this was a few years back when they were actively still coming to the house and coming right up to the deck. But that's another thing to look for is signs of where they've defecated or where they've urinated. And I can't say that all their urine stinks. I don't know. I'm not a Sasquatch urine aficionado, but that stunk. It was nasty. I took pictures, and then I took a sample, and I took a shovel, and I immediately got rid of it, dug it up and buried, moved it, and got it rid of it, threw it in the side of the yard over there where I put the ashes. So just be aware. When you find footprints, first thing is process to eliminate a hoax. By looking for the signs of animation, of toe movement. You're looking for size, weight. The foot, once they become adult, the foot will be flat. The foot sinks into the ground. Heavy weight. The single, pristine footprint, and just totally out of place. Or if you do find a trackway, Sasquatch don't walk this way. They walk one foot in front of the other. Very obvious. Those are some of the signs there when you're dealing with with the footprint. And one of the more common things you'll see. We'll get into the other things, but this is usually the first thing people notice is the footprints. If they don't have a sighting or whatever, it's just they find footprints. So I want to kind of go over that and let you know what you're dealing with, what you're looking at when you're dealing with footprints, and so now you kind of got an idea of what's going on. So it's Christmas Day, and I hope everyone's had a Merry Christmas, and I do wish everybody a Happy New Year. And till next time, you guys be safe, be careful, and till next time, I'll see you later.